Toutons in the morning after being on George Street cooked by mom is a good morning.
Welcome to the Second Set podcast. I'm your host, Amy Watson. Lindsay Anne Delaney is a fashion photographer and now director living in Toronto, but her accent might give away the fact that she's not from there originally. We're both actually from Newfoundland. Can't you tell from the way I say party? Lindsay studied photography first in Boston, then back in Newfoundland, then in Halifax. She's worked recently with Revenge Couture, with New York Fashion Week, and she's the photography specialist on Toronto TV show Cityline. She also shoots for various magazines across Canada. While this lady is a force to be reckoned with, she's also the life of the party and one of the most honest and straight-shooting people you'll meet. She knows what she wants in a photo, from a model, and from life. And she's probably got the most self-esteem of anyone I know without coming off as the least bit full of herself. But there I go, breaking the journalistic rule of show, don't tell. So I'll let you decide for yourself. Here's Lindsay.
Okay. Hi, Lindsay. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
Good. Good to see you. So excited to have you here.
Yeah, this is going to be so much fun.
We need to start it off with a drink then, because okay. I know that most of our fun evenings together start off with a drink.
Yes, they have started off with a good drink. I am drinking Grey Goose vodka and sugar-free Red Bull.
And I know you wanted to do a spicy margarita, but you got too busy. So I think I have to tell everybody that is not your regular drink of choice.
I do like tequila in every shape, way, or form, but I am from Newfoundland. So that being said.
Yeah, I wondered about that. I was like, well, I should drink rum because it feels wrong to not drink rum. But actually, I didn't go with that. I went with a Cokie Spritz because I don't have Aperol, but I had Cokie. So just made it a little bit sparkling. But then you were so busy before that my ice cubes melted. So it doesn't
I'm
look that
so
pretty.
sorry.
So no. Then I had to do a little olive garnish with some fresh thyme from my garden. So it's a little bit cuter. I'm really bad at wrapping thyme around olives, by the way.
Oh.
but it kind of, and then I'm like, when do I drop this in? Because I'll never get it out. So I might just like nibble on olives and
like dip it and just eat it.
I think so.
Halfway through the podcast, right? So I do know you like to nibble on things, especially little foods after being in Turkey with you.
Yeah. So we should explain a little bit. We were in Turkey for a week together and did some amazing dining together and saw a lot of the country, not enough of the country. And I'm actually trying to write an article right now on that experience, but then that has nothing to do with this podcast at all. But I just wanted to catch you up on like all the Turkey things that I've been thinking about lately, because I think about that trip all the time.
I think about that trip. I think about how lucky we were to have that trip and to experience the culture the way that we experienced it. And it definitely opened my eyes about how the media portrays certain things as well. And then it also opened my mind about the culture over there too. I remember when I was going over there and I was packing, people were like, well, you can't wear your silver high tops and your YYZ hat. And I'm like, what am I going to wear? Like, because it was, but Istanbul was so much more westernized and so fashionable than what everyone thinks it is. So
yeah, I couldn't afford anything there. It was so beautiful. Everything was fancy and artisanal, and they have such an appreciation for fashion. You were going crazy. Like I was just blown away by your love for all the locally made products and then my love for all of the food. It was really interesting. If we're out anywhere, I would beeline to the food for photos, and you would beeline to the people and the fabrics and everything. Textural. It was texture, right? You're into texture.
Texture was the word that I used. That the other you all kind of made a little fun of me, but I love textures and everything. But even in the food, like the Michelin star restaurants that we ate in. Everything was art and the textures, and the article that I wrote was called Textures of Turkey. So
right. And so that was for what magazine again?
So I am the lifestyle and fashion editor of Preferred Men's Magazine. So that was what that was for. Yeah. So I was very blessed to have that. And it was like everything. It was so good.
And I know, right? And you normally do photography, but then you got to write about it as well. And now you've made a film. So now you're a director? When did this happen? And you're an award nominated director at that?
I am. I still you say that and I'm just like WTF, I can't. So obviously COVID, I say this loosely because obviously it's been very damaging for a lot of people. People have different struggles and I've struggled, but I feel like artists were made for this pandemic. So we've had to pivot in certain ways. And, you know, as a fashion photographer, I mean, I've always been interested in film. I'm a huge fan of Jordan Orham, and he works with like Drake and like Post Malone, and they do a lot of different, like, his films. It's just like the videos are, they're so good. So I had an opportunity that was presented to me. I've always wanted to do a fashion film. I dabbled with some stuff with a magazine called Dress to Kill in Montreal, and it didn't really work out. And then I kind of went in a different direction. And so when the Canadian International Fashion Film Festival came up, obviously Toronto's community is very small, and I was getting emails, and I was just like, I'm gonna do this. I was like, I have time to do this.
Finally, right? Yeah.
I have time to like figure it out. And, you know, I know, mind you, it was shot in 3 days. Cindy Sampson, who stars on Private Eyes opposite Jason Priestley, she and I, and a makeup artist by the name of Joanne Parks, who was very well known in the film and TV industry, and my assistant, went into the woods for 3 days, and we filmed. And I just kind of took my own life experience, which was basically, we all have different creatures inside of us. So there's different, like, we have different versions of ourselves, you know? So I made 7 different characters, and I was able to pull from Stefan Carras, who's had vintage pieces that hadn't been used or even shot in 30 years, basically connecting it back to sustainable fashion, how vintage is coming so popular right now. So we pulled these out of the vault, and I went in the woods and I shot it. But I didn't expect to get nominated. I was basically pushing out art, and I was just putting my whole self into what I usually do. And when we got officially selected for the film festival, that was like, whoa, this is cool. But then they interviewed me. They interviewed directors all around the world, from South Africa to Japan to Los Angeles. And Roger Gurnich, I don't know if I say that properly. I always say his name wrong. He's going to get mad at me if he sees this. He interviewed me, and then they told me on my Instagram interview that I had been nominated for Best Canadian Fashion Film.
Oh my gosh, you must have freaked out.
I cried, and I was like, I don't cry for people. I couldn't believe it, because it goes through a lot, you know, like there's 18 categories. Some of these films have like $30,000 budget. Some of them are directors with, like, you know, I was just like happy to get the official selection.
Yeah.
And when, you know, to go through the ringer, I mean, there's the jury who votes on this. They're very high-end people. Like, it's like, there's a lady there who's she's attached to Vogue. There's another person attached. Like, they're very, like, it's not like this is, you know, Mickey Mouse situation. So to get pushed through as Best Canadian Fashion Film as a nomination with 6 other films, I was just like, whoa. I'm a nominated director.
Congratulations. So is it a story? Is it narrated? Is it, like, you said it's about sustainable fashion?
It just has a dip of sustainable fashion. So basically, so my director statement basically touches the fact that we all have inner struggles. And during COVID, especially with myself, I feel like I've had to look at myself in the mirror as Lindsay, you know, as an artist. So, and basically you're fighting different parts of yourself. It's kind of like, for just a small example, you know, if you need to go to the gym, there's a person saying, no, don't go to the gym, go to the gym. And then there's that person who likes to get dressed and go out. Like, you have different characters within you. So there's different characters in this one story. It's one actress, and it's basically, they're struggling with each other, but there's always one major character that wins inside of you. So it's very, I should send you the link. Well, it's October 27th is when the link, when everything will be coming out. But yeah, it's about inner struggles and about facing yourself in the mirror, and about how it wouldn't have happened without COVID, this film. Okay. So, and I tied in the fact that we shot in the woods for 3 days. My drink almost went flying. That would be a typical Lindsay thing to do. Very typical Lindsay for the drink to go fly. I haven't had anything to drink. I've had 2 sips. But so basically, to be able to pull from Stefan Carras and have vintage fashion in the woods with no budget and an actress and 4 people. So it was kind of a collaboration of different things, if that makes sense.
it's like a COVID one-off, like something that would never happen otherwise, probably.
No.
Something really surreal where you can get that kind of collaboration. There's kind of
Yeah.
like the artistic background to it that you wouldn't have time to do. You wouldn't have the people to do. You wouldn't have, you know, the drive to do at another time. So that sounds like a really cool project. But one thing you said that I found really interesting was that you have to look yourself in the mirror. And what I love about your Instagram feed, which is amazing, by the way, and people can definitely check you out. City Lights, what is it? Sorry,
City Light Lens. City Light, no S, Lens.
Lind, Lind?
S.
S.
City Light Lens. So CITYLIGHT
So what I like about it is you have a lot of photos of the models that you work with, and then you have a lot of photos of yourself, and they're all wild. Like they're a big color, you know, it's like your lips right now, they pop. It's like your eyes, they pop. Like there's always something in the photo that just goes boom, goes wow. And so I don't know what, like, I don't see you as the kind of person that has a problem looking at yourself in the mirror, because you really own whatever you see, you know, like I don't know what you see when you look in the mirror, but you're like, that's me in whatever like guise you're in. So it's like, how is that a problem for you? Why was that something you wanted to address in the film?
I mean, so I just recently went through a breakup. So I feel like my breakup, I had to realize that this human wasn't right for me. Not that this human was a bad human. It just wasn't the right person for me, for my career moving forward. That's a huge inner struggle to have, you know? So I also like feel like I was fighting that for a long time, and to come over that and know what you want, it's not necessarily about, you know, we all have our insecurities, and you know, I definitely have my days where I'm just like, you know, what's going on? But you know, everyone, you know, expects sparkly Lindsay all the time, and that can be a lot of pressure as well. You know, so when you have work and personal and things aren't adding up, I think it was my way of pushing out what I was facing in my personal life. And you know, I'm definitely better that I left that situation. There was nothing wrong with that situation. It was just we had grown apart. So for me, I had a lot of different characters, because you know, you went at home, and so I don't know, like there's a fairy princess one, she's got pink hair and she's laughing through it, she's like evil, you know, but that's like devious Lindsay going, you know, I just feel there's a representation. And then there's one character, she's like walking through the woods, she had a long ponytail, and it's just like, you don't want to mess with this girl. So like there's different characters.
I never want to mess with you. What are you talking about? You scare me in the best possible way, you know?
I mean, thank you. I don't even know what that means.
No, you don't scare me.
I mean, I kind of do sometimes, I think. No,
no, you make me feel like I'm home, honestly. Like I'm just like, oh, Newfoundland, this makes sense. Let's walk back to March. So COVID happens. You've got a lot of contracts lined up. And then boom, what happened? Did everything just shut down for you?
Well, I was right out of the gates when I got back from Newfoundland in January. Between January and February, I'd already traveled 6 times for work. And I was actually supposed to go to Miami with an actress, and I canceled the night before. So I had a lot put into the year before it started. January, February, really dull. Usually dull months in my I guess it's industry. Sometimes it can't be. Depends. Depends. You know, like some people are in Miami or Los Angeles, but like in Toronto, there's work, but like, you know, chase. So I had set myself up to travel a lot this year. So I had a lot. I was supposed to go back to Turkey.
Whoa.
Yeah, I was supposed to go back to Turkey. I'm so sorry.
Who would ask the questions, Lindsay? Would you want me to write you out some questions?
I think so. I
just for listeners readers or viewers who are watching this, I was constantly asking questions, and I was made fun of constantly for asking all the questions.
Okay, let me correct that statement. So when Amy, she was asking questions, and it was like, she was obviously one of the most experienced journalists there. You are a brilliant mind. So, and you're a full-on journalist. I mean, I write and I photograph and I'm whatever, but like, I'm by all means not a writer like you. You were brilliant. But the thing was, halfway, like day one, I was like, oh my God, like, is she going to ask another question? And day two was like, oh my God, Amy's going to ask that question. Like, I was so, do you know what I mean? By the end of it, I was like, this is dope because like, you're going to ask everything and you didn't care. I was loving it. But you know, it's also very different energies, and every person, of like, there's 4 of us, 2 from Chicago, and then you were from Montreal and I was from Toronto. So really 2 Newfies and 2 Americans, let's be real. And it was just a really good combination of women that we were that experienced this together. But Amy would ask all the questions, everything, anything that you were thinking that you're like, maybe I'll email the question. Nope, she asked it. And you're like, okay, like this is good. So,
okay, so you were going to go back to Turkey, and then
I was
that
going to
got
go back
canceled.
to Turkey and do a fashion story. I had some approval for, you know, some pretty major things, you know, that were going to happen. I was supposed to be in Germany this year. I had stuff lined up in Barbados, Los Angeles, New York, Miami. Like this, like, it was like, for me, it wasn't even about the money because it was about my career flipping, you know, like flip. And I was just like, and I lost everything in 3 weeks. So I was like, and everyone's like, oh, well, you'll make the money. It wasn't about the money. Never, like, you know, and like, I never really, I mean, yes, we have to make a living, but I didn't start doing this for like money, you know what I mean? I only started being able to support myself. And like, it was probably about maybe 2 years ago, was like, okay, like this is, I'm okay. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but so yeah, so there were some things that were supposed to happen in Toronto. Those things got pushed. Unfortunately, photography wasn't allowed to happen until stage 3. So when Doug Ford said that, because Hamilton, you could shoot in Hamilton, but you couldn't shoot in Toronto. So I had clients being like, let's go to Hamilton. I'm like, well, if we go to Hamilton, everyone has to have their own hotel room. There's a COVID fee and there's this, and this. So like everything had to be sterilized before I left my place. And when I got to the studio, PPE, like supplies, like that was just another thing that had to be tacked on. Usually there was a pre-light day, like where you go and you pre-light, do things. So my pre-light day basically got turned to a COVID day, which is fine because that's what you have to do, right? But it was still like, people aren't going to pay for 2 of it because their budgets were cut too. So I was fortunate right out of the gate. I shot a campaign for Amari, which is a designer brand for DeMarie Carroll. He's an NBA basketball player in a collaboration with Christopher Bates, who's a Canadian designer. So we basically, was Monday, we got the notification we could shoot. I was shooting Wednesday, and then I shot I think I shot almost 27 days straight after that.
Oh my gosh.
It was like,
wow.
boom, 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 boom. So during COVID, the funny thing is that I was like, okay, but I had so many things that happened before. I had articles I had to write, and I was editing and stuff. So like March was like, okay. April was like, okay. And then, but towards the end of April, I was like, oh, like we still locked down, you know? But then PR companies started calling me and wanting me to shoot like product. I did some stuff for some local places around here, Uber Eats. They wanted to put their stuff on Uber Eats, so I could shoot out of my place, you know? So I was basically doing some things, and then they would send me food to shoot, but I get to keep the food because they couldn't take it back, you know? So I had free groceries for like, you know, about 3 or 4 weeks, but after a while I was like, I can't do it. Like my soul couldn't do it anymore. I was like, I need to. So then it was basically, that was March, April. So May was kind of like, let's gut everything in my place out. And then June was when things kind of went back. And then I shot the film in July. So that was basically my COVID. And now things are kind of locked down again, but I'm still shooting because it's a revised, I guess, of what it was back in March. So
yeah, like some things are allowed to go on and photography is allowed to go on.
Yeah, but like for instance, some e-com places, they're cutting the model's head out, no hair and makeup, right? So it's just me and the model. and the stylist, and that's it. And it's
Yeah.
just like, they'll do that. So
And then it doesn't matter if they're wearing a mask then, because you don't see it, right?
exactly, because their head's cut out.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can do socially distanced or with mask photography.
Yeah, it's very like, and my lenses have changed as well. But I mean,
oh yeah, how does that change?
Well, like, I mean, I always shoot usually like depending, like with 85, but like now it's just like more of a zoom lens. Like I'll be further back because of social distancing. I love a good prime lens, but like you got to adapt to what's going on. You know what I mean? And then like the spaces. Like I used to do a lot of photo shoots here in my place. I don't do that anymore. I could fit a team in here, half no seam. Like my place is like 800 square feet. So like half a no seam. It's very tight, but it's very functionable. I shot 2 covers here one in January and February, one for Preferred and one for Vitalize, both of them here with different backgrounds, but you'd never know it was here. But I mean, to get a studio overhead is just a lot. In editorial, there's no budget in editorial, so you kind of do what you can, right?
I know, yeah.
You know. So I definitely consider myself blessed for what I've been doing. You know, I feel bad for younger artists or even some of the older artists that, you know, haven't, you know, there's different things. I know a lot of artists.
You did a master class, right, at Ryerson?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're working with a lot of kids there. Like, what's are they all scared, or what are they feeling like?
So I'm gonna say, so one of my assistant, her name is Alicia Trilla. She's coming with my new business partner now. Cool. We're gonna start a publication together. That's new here. No one really knows that. So I basically, there's Ryerson University. I've never been so impressed with young people and the skill set that they have. Like, they're very technology sound. So that's an advancement they already have above people who have been in the industry for a long time, because they grew up with certain things and they're already adapting their fashionable skills and right away clicking and pivoting on certain things quicker than people who've been in the industry for a long time. You know, I think it's very valid to have young people on your team. Alicia is constantly like, you know, there's certain things she'll say, well, why don't you do this? And I was like, oh, okay.
Good idea.
But, you know, it's like knowledge versus, you know, youth, you know, which is really 2 good combinations. The masterclass at Ryerson, I mean, some kids are obviously, you know, they don't have the means. There's a lot of people who have left the city. I do feel bad for people who, it's a hustle, you know, it's a hustle in general. Now it's just going to be harder. I mean, my life is not, everyone's like, oh, glam. It's not glam. Like, I work my ass off. And it's every day is, you know, it's a different avenue, but it's definitely, I feel bad for the younger generation, people who just graduated school, because, you know, those years of experience are getting on set with, like, you know, those old school people like Chris Nichols. Chris Nichols is one of the best fashion photographers in Canada. He was the first one to win Image Maker of the Year at the Canadian Arts and Fashion Awards. And that was the first set that I was on in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So you can't replace that experience, and they're missing out on that. The internships, the one, you know, there's certain, only so much you can teach through.
Yeah. Even the fashion weeks, like, they're not going to be able to go to fashion weeks. There are no regular fashion weeks. So you don't get that networking. You don't get that experience. What's that like when you're not going to these kinds of events and getting exposed and creative juices going?
It's like, so there's a lot of like virtual things going, you know what I mean?
But it's not the same. Like, you're talking about texture, you know, like if you're looking at a screen.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was like, in the beginning, I was like, oh, I don't have to, like, cause it's like a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's nice when you're not
great,
like
like
going through it all.
By day 4, like, it's like, oh my God, like, I'm exhausted. Like, I have to work. I've been at 5 o'clock tomorrow, and it's 11 o'clock, and I'm talking.
But no, listen, you are a trooper. If anybody could power through in Turkey, when I was going out and getting melatonin at 10 p.m. because I could not sleep, and I was like, I had the horrible jet lag. You're like, let's go get a drink. Who's up for a drink? Like, you're good to go. And I'm just like, I wish I had that. So don't even tell me that you at Fashion Week day 4. Come on, at least day 6.
I definitely, like, it's kind of like, I mean, I feel like I'm getting older now.
No, I think you're getting younger.
I mean, It can be. It's like mentally and physically exhausting. It really is. But I mean, it's good. But I just feel it's not the same, you know? Like a lot of people I met during Fashion Week is people who basically either get their next job, or like I'd be like, oh, I want to feature you in Preferred as a designer profile, and you getting right next to the designer. You know what I mean? Like every designer that I featured, I was at Fashion Week. Like Christopher Bates, Pascal Labelle, Kiriako Karaz, Stefan Karaz, who else? Hendrix Rowe, oh my God, House of Dala. Like there's Hussein, but I met all these people at Fashion Week. So yeah, it's not the same. I feel bad for these kids. I really do.
I just feel like our bubbles are getting that much smaller, and we're so much more inward looking because we don't have that exposure to the outside. And there's a fear too of working with people from the outside. You don't know them. You don't know your bubble, like their bubble. So like, have you worked with new people during the pandemic, and how's that kind of relationship formed?
So Revenge Couture, basically has been a new person I've been working with, but we've known about each other for a long time. Laura Vandervoort actually opened her show for New York Fashion Week. They did a virtual show here at Osgood Hall downtown, and I went and I took some photos, and then we just did another project together, and then we have something else coming out in December together. But I'd already had like met her, you know, through other people, but I feel like the people that there's been more of this, which is good, but new people, it's just like I have makeup artists hitting me up and people like, how do I do this and that? But it's kind of like you kind of do stick to your main people, because it's like the other thing is budgets have been cut. So budgets have been cut, and you want to make sure you're getting a product. So to take a chance on a new photographer or a new makeup artist, or someone, and especially if you're the client booking these people, or if you're the producer, it's easier for you to say, hey, I have this job, their budget, will you accept this day rate instead? You know what I mean? Because more likely I'm going to say yes, because it's a certain time, you know what I mean? And then obviously when things go, and it's kind of like, I'll never devalue my craft. I've said no to a couple of things because it's kind of like, there's a certain value that I have in my work, but you definitely have those conversations. And if I don't think that, if I can't do it, or if I'm busy, or if it doesn't meet what I think I should be paid, I definitely have a team of people that I contract out as well, for certain jobs through me. And I try to give other people opportunity, but then it's like, they trust my word, and that person makes money and everyone's happy, so.
But if there were a major publication that came to you and you're like, I really, really want to work for them, and they lowballed you and they were like, COVID, would you do it?
No. I mean, like, I'm like, it's kind of like you kind of know where the budget's laid, you know what I mean? And I'm at the point that I've done enough free work, as people say, and it's not free work. It's more like creative work. It's, I had an interesting conversation with, a director out of Los Angeles last week, and it was some very good advice. He was just like, if they don't accept what you offer, tell them to kick rocks. And I was just like, we say that in Newfoundland, kick rocks. And I was like, the fact that you're saying this to me is amazing. Because Newfoundland, they're like, okay, go kick rocks. And I was like, why are you saying this? You have to know what you're worth. Do you know what I mean? And even during these times, people are going to try to lowball you because of what's going on. So, it's kind of like, if you want my product, if you want what I can do best, then you're going to pay for it. And if you don't want to pay for it, then that's okay. You find someone else that you can. So it's either one of two things. They're going to come back to me when that doesn't work out, or they're going to find someone that does a mediocre job. So if you're purchasing my services, or if you want contract me for my services, my whole point is elevate your product to sell your product. I'm responsible for selling your product at the end of the day. So if I'm not doing my job right, you should be making money for you book me again. I'm not gonna it's one and one, right? So, but yeah, I'm pretty stubborn like that. I've been stubborn like that for the last year and a half, because I'm just
good for you.
This episode of the Senkaset podcast is sponsored by Boreal Botanical, whose goal is to help you drink something better. Boreal brews sugar-free, sweetener-free, and preservative-free tonics using adaptogenic mushrooms like chaga, lion's mane, and reishi. So basically, lots of good stuff and none of the bad. They're also alcohol-free and have tiny bubbles that tickled my nose when I tried the chaga flavor infused with spruce and blueberry. It was herbal and tasted to me like a mix of caramel and stout without the sugar, but my friend thought it tasted more like Earl Grey tea. Personally, I think my friend's wrong, and he just associates everything herbal with tea, so let's stick with caramel as a tasting note. I like the chaga tonic in the morning because it gives me a little lift without the caffeine jitters of coffee. The relaxed reishi flavor with elderberry and birch is perfect for the afternoon. And if you're scratching your head about what adaptogens are, they're plants that help your body handle stress. Each one should have a slightly different but gentle effect. Chaga is for energy, reishi is for relaxation, and lion's mane is for focus. To learn more, take a look at borealbrewing.ca. Their products will be available in stores by November, but if you don't want to wait, you can order online from their website with free shipping thrown in. Even better, listeners get a 10% off with the discount code SENKASET. That's the number 5, lowercase a, and the number 7.
Oh, so what is coming up for you? What are the things are picking up now, I guess. What is exciting? A little bit?
It's a lot. So it's hard to talk. I don't like to talk about things before they happen because it's like
just what you can say or allude to.
Yeah. So like I said, there's that I shot some things with for Amari. There's some pretty major things coming up in December around me in particular, but I can't really say.
I'll look out for it. I'll follow it on Instagram. I know you'll tease it there, and I know you'll post everything that's happening. So definitely check it out. I'll be very excited for you. And I hope there's more travel in your future, in both of our futures, but that's going to be a little bit longer off.
I know.
Since it's going to be more focused on you, I did have one question about, as a photographer, how do you feel about getting your own photo taken by someone else? Like, you're kind of letting go of control. Is that a scary thing?
So I really hid from the camera for a very long time. And then obviously at Fashion Week, you have to give photos, but when you have someone like George Pimentel taking your photo, it's like, this is, you're like, okay, like, you know what I mean? And it's great. I don't know. I feel like I've become more comfortable with myself as a human in the last couple of years, so I'm okay with it. I would go to Fashion Week and I would see all these people so glammed up, and I would be there like in a hoodie and a hat and like kicks, and like that would be, you know, there'd be no oomph, you know what I mean? So I've definitely discovered my style a little bit more for sure, and that just probably comes with age and with experience, but I'm okay with it. I don't really mind it really much anymore. I mean, I definitely have some things to say if I can. I mean, you know, but it's definitely I definitely have an opinion about certain angles if I have the ability to vocalize that before it goes live.
Okay. So what are some tips for people who maybe don't like getting their photos done? Like, what are those angles? What are those looks? What should you do?
I mean, some people when they're doing selfies, they're like this, and it's just like you need to like own it. You know what I mean? For me, it's always like just pretend you have a crown on top of your head, and just think that like you're like try to like channel something. You know what I mean? Like everyone's had a moment in their life where they're like, yeah, you know what I mean? So you got to do that. Lower angles are not your friends. You know what I mean? Like you having your phone, like this is not. You want things to be high. You know what I mean? Like you want, you know. The other thing is and I said this, I was on City Line when I said they doing a segment, I think last year for the holiday season. So Snapseed is a wonderful app. Snapseed is something that you can like tweak it in. You don't have to be like photo like smart. You can literally like figure it out and you play with it. Turning sideways and like putting your hand on your hip as a woman always helps, and shifting weight is really good. Yeah, there's all kinds of things you can do. Try not to like cram everything in, you know?
Right. Okay. Don't like take over the
and like there's so many things like most like, you know, you try to set it up. Like you can, most cameras, you know, for the iPhone 11 Pro, there's 3 cameras on this thing. There's different settings. You can set your camera up to a timer. Timers help because you can see yourself and like, you can like, okay, instead of like, trying to, you know, snap before the timer goes off, you can actually set it up. So
we're recording on Zoom right now, and one thing that I always notice and feel really self-conscious about is when I do like a Zoom call with my family and there's a bunch of us all on the screen and you don't know who has what kind of gallery mode or speaker mode set up or anything, but you always see yourself. And so like right now I'm looking at you, I'm not looking at myself because I'm, doing an interview and I'm focusing on you and you're significantly more important. But when I'm talking with my family, time goes by and you kind of start drifting off, or you're looking at yourself, you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on with my hair? Oh my gosh, what's, and you're always moving around and you're like posing. And I'm like, why am I posing for my family? This doesn't even matter. And then you're thinking, are they doing it too? So is this a Zoom thing where everybody's just so into themselves and we're really not even there to have a conversation?
I think it's like, I'm constantly doing this with my hair. I think it's just a thing. You're just like, do I look okay? Like,
but if you didn't see yourself, would you still be doing that?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I think but I feel like I'm always trying. It's like my thing to have all my hair to one side, but maybe not as much.
Right.
Because
so should I just like put, should I do that too? Is that for
spice
everybody or is that just for you? Or should I? Yeah. No, see, it always ends up worse when I do that. Things go up, things go over. Like my hair doesn't do what your hair does. So is it a danger for people who don't have your hair to do these kinds of things? Should we just not touch, just focus? Like you said, set up the frame, deal with the frame. It's good,
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe I think it's maybe so. You're so cute. Yeah, I just can't like. It's just like a thing.
Zoom lessons from Lindsay. That's the next podcast.
That would be an awful podcast. Photography lessons from Lindsay. Okay, Zoom lessons, not so much.
But now it's becoming the same thing. No, you don't think?
No, I think obviously you have to. People get set up for Zoom and like you get, but I would never put photography and Zoom in the same bracket. I definitely, prepping yourself for certain things, but it's kind of like a long selfie, maybe. Zoom.
A long selfie. I like that.
Yeah.
There's more room for error, which is worrisome because there are people, like you said, who take really bad selfies. And like my lighting here, I've noticed. So I normally do the podcast at 5:00 because it's the 5 cassette. So usually try to do it around 5. And in the summer, that was great because there was great light. Right. It was wonderful. And then the last podcast I did, over the course of the podcast, it got brutally dark and I essentially disappeared. Fortunately, most of people are listeners and not viewers, I think, but I could be wrong about that. But now I've kind of set up with more light, but now I'm still looking at it. I'm like, why do I look yellow? Because of the horrible lighting, So this is something I need to work on. So maybe we need to have another conversation.
Yeah, you need to get yourself a ring light, Amy. You need a ring light.
It's true.
I'm going to send you some links.
Okay, I appreciate it. I really actually do. Please send me those links. I'm not just being facetious, like fix my podcast. Fine. Yeah. No, I really need help.
No. I got you.
Great. So we don't have a ton of time left, but I want to end with a quick lightning round. Okay. So just fun questions that just answer whatever comes to your mind. Some of them are a little bit longer. I'm notoriously horrible at lightning rounds, but here we go. Sweet or savory?
Shit. Sweet.
Sweet. Okay. Favorite camera?
Oh, no. Skip.
Okay. Favorite place to shoot in Toronto?
Oh, I shot in the abandoned subway station, Lower Bay Station. That's been my favorite. Oh, but I also shot on a yacht in Toronto Harbor. And I love industrial, weird places that people say you can't shoot. Yeah. So there you go.
Okay. Favorite food?
Oh my God. My mother's cooking is my favorite food. She makes something called Japanese chicken wings and then Toutons, obviously. Toutons in the morning after being on George Street cooked by mom is a good morning.
Ooh, molasses or Aunt Jemima?
Molasses? Girl, is that even a question? Are you even a true Newfie? Is that even a true Newfie? If you have Aunt Jemima on your Toutons instead of molasses, you are not a true Newfie.
Well, to be fair, my parents are not from there. So
oh my God, do you have Aunt Jemima? Okay.
I grew up with Aunt Jemima. And then when my dad brought home real maple syrup for the first time, it was so intensely sweet. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crushing my brain.
Have you ever had molasses on your Toutons?
Of course. Come now.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we have it in school. We're awfully proud of our heritage in Newfoundland. I've had plenty of Toutons with molasses. Don't worry. Okay. And plenty of molasses bread and all sorts of
I won't hold it against you, Amy, for now.
Okay. I appreciate it. I picked wild blueberries in the bogs. Don't worry.
Okay, you're good. You're back on the Newfie ground. You're back on the Newfie ground.
Okay. Favorite Toronto restaurant?
Oh, there's so many places in Toronto, but I mean, Canoe is, I love Canoe. Canoe is like, the lamb there is just like I can't, never, the wine list and like everything about it, the view, like I just like, yeah, you know, Laval also, I was at Laval a couple, 3-4 weeks ago, and I had watermelon ceviche, and I've been dreaming about it all summer because I hadn't been a chance to go, with champagne, and it was just like sitting there, like, so yeah, Laval and Canoe are pretty tight.
Can I tell you a secret about watermelon ceviche with champagne?
Mm-hmm.
You buy a watermelon in season, because you probably had it when watermelon was in season and local and all that. So next year you buy watermelon and you buy a really nice bottle of champagne, which will be significantly better than theirs. And then you drink 7/8 of that bottle of champagne. Yeah. And then with the remaining 1/8, you douse your watermelon ceviche. Now, the upside of this, it is significantly cheaper, even when you buy that significantly more expensive bottle of champagne than what they probably used on that watermelon ceviche.
But
I shouldn't say that.
Amy, it's nice all of you know too. So next time you come to Toronto, maybe we should go out. Just saying. Okay, that's a deal. Speaking of going out, and speaking of like early morning Toutons after a late night, poutine or shawarma? Poutine.
Oh, you're like a Montrealer at heart. That's adorable.
Poutine, yes.
Okay, and best thing you've seen on Instagram lately?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I don't ask easy questions. You know that, Lindsay.
I know. That was like a bullet.
Got to end on a serious note.
So there's so many great artists on Instagram. Like I just, you know, there's this combo duo couple. Their name is Carlos and Elise. And if I got her name wrong, I'm so sorry. They're a boyfriend, girlfriend, couple photography duo. And they've just been putting out some gorgeous work. And like, there was this trend like a couple years ago where everything was kind of, I don't want to say flat, but flat. Basically, it was very like trendy to do like, they make they've elevated this, it's just really good. So they've been posting some stuff lately of some models and some of their work. They've been doing some beautiful work. They've done some stuff for like, I believe winners, like they're doing video and stuff too. But it's interesting to see these two work because they're both on camera and they switch off from what I understand. But yeah, I have to check to see, just to make sure if that's how you say their names. But
I'll put up a link to it too. I'll put up a link so people can find it in the show notes.
Like, it's crazy. Carlo and Elise. Alyse. Is that Elise?
Could be.
Yeah. Anyways, like their work is like for instance, like look at this. Like, wow. Okay. They're working with some of the best people like in Toronto. Like their work is just like, I love them. They're so good. Yeah. So that's one of my new favorites lately for sure.
Okay. And so just to end, where can people find?
Oh, sorry.
All right.
So Fashion Canada just did also a cover with Winnie Harlow, and Greg Wells shot it. That is something else that was like unbelievable. Like they shot that. They're both in Los Angeles, obviously. Greg Wells, I'm horrible with this. Anyways, I'll send you the link, but like it's so good. He was also nominated for Canadian Fashion Photographer of the Image Maker of the Year for Canadian Fashion Awards. Okay. But it's so good. Anyways.
Okay. And so where can people find your short film? And how can they get in touch with you?
CANIF, so the Canadian International Film Festival, I'll send you a link. I'll be posting it on www.lindsayanndelaney.com. And obviously it'll be on City Light Linz on my Instagram.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have a drink with you and a chat and a catch up.
It's so good. You're so much fun. Yes. Hopefully I get to see you soon in person at some point. You know?
When Toronto restaurants open, there'll be a date.
Perfect. I'm going to hold you to that.
Toutons! Don't you want Toutons? I really want Toutons now. They're basically pan-fried bread dough that ends up like dense pancakes, but you top them with molasses, as you now know. Anyway, thanks for listening to the Second Set podcast. If you want to catch up on past episodes or never miss a new one, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or Pocket Casts. Follow on Spotify and find us on Stitcher. And you can stream any episode on my blog, multiculturiosity.com, which you can also like on Facebook for tons of recipes and stories about my culinary adventures, including how to crash a Newfoundland dessert party. Follow me on Instagram at Miss Watson, that's Miss Watson with 2 T's, and for links to everywhere that Lindsay and I mentioned, check out the show notes wherever you got this podcast. Until next week, sip something delicious, wherever you are.